issue that when I was in Senate in the last administration, I was a very serious critic of the way the oil prices were being handled by the government. Why did they feel that it was okay to understand President Uhuru Kenyatta, but when it is President William Ruto, they should go to the streets? You should ask yourself, why did they not stop their vehicles just less than 4 years ago? And why is it that in the administration of President William Ruto, they have stopped their vehicles from coming to the streets? There must be some...
Who are these politicians we are talking about? The investigations are not going, but the incitements, you know, the people who have been inciting. You know particularly that the former deputy president is on record inciting people who have a different opinion and telling people in his backyard that anybody who is having an alternative political opinion supporting President Ruto is a traitor, and the traitors must be punished. So the understanding...
We refused to buy that argument, I included. We are now paying for that. Uhuru knew because he had stayed with him. So Kipchumba Murkomen, leave Uhuru Kenyatta alone. He is not the president of Kenya. Uhuru Kenyatta is retired. Let Ruto carry his cross. He has mismanaged the country.
As the country burned, and as businesses shut down and others looted, as transport across parts of Kenya came to a standstill, and as reports emerged of citizens being shot during protest, where was the president?
In the last 3 years, we are building 273,000 housing units. 8,000 keys have been handed over. 55,000 keys will be handed over before the end of this year. And we have a pipeline of 700,000 housing units. I can say with confidence that today in Kenya, we have the largest housing program in the continent of Africa. Let me also say the following. We have mobilized, because of our housing fund, we have mobilized $5 billion from local or domestic resources. We haven't borrowed a single shilling from the World Bank. We haven't borrowed a single shilling from any other institution. This is locally developed resources. We have, as a result, employed 640,000 young people, architects, quantity surveyors, masons, carpenters, electricians, and all the other professionals. And we are on the way to hiring 1 million young people.
Not in Kenya, not addressing the nation, not calming tensions, not even tweeting a message of solidarity to struggling Kenyans. Instead, President William Ruto was in Baku speaking proudly about affordable housing, projects and the achievements of his administration.
We have begun the journey of reversing slum growth. In fact, in the city of Nairobi, we have started to remove slums, to replace them with decent housing. And number 5, we have reduced land fragmentation. We now have more land to do agriculture because we are consolidating settlements in proper organized cities.
Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with affordable housing. Development matters, housing matters. But fuel is the heartbeat of every economy. When fuel prices go up, everything goes up. Food prices rise, transport fares rise, business costs rise, and the burden always falls on ordinary Kenyans. And if our government truly stands with ordinary mwananchi, then such a crisis should be treated with urgency, not silence. So during a crisis like this, shouldn't leadership respond with urgency? At the very least, Kenyans expected reassurance, a statement, a tweet, or at least an update. Because somehow, this administration always seems to find time to comment on less urgent matters online. But when citizens are crying over the economy, silence becomes the official language.
Kenya 197. The reason why probably, Uganda is a free market for petroleum. But you can still see how the prices are playing around. In Tanzania, it's controlled like ours. But let me tell you one thing about Uganda and Tanzania. First, Kenya is a bigger economy. Our consumption is higher. So we exhaust our storage faster. Uganda Uganda today, you'll find they're still having the stock of March. The stock of March was way cheaper than the stock of April. As we are on the stock of April. The stock of April came at a higher landing cost than the stock of March. You will see the next month, Uganda will jump up again, probably ahead of Kenya. So these things, when it is easier to just throw words around that our neighbors are selling, the reality is that is not very factual. You go and find out. I have given you the example of the U.S. The U.S. produce oil. The U.S. refine oil, and actually they are net exporters of oil. But what is the price of how has it been?
And maybe what frustrated Kenyans even more was the response from the leaders left behind to address the crisis. Instead of accountability, we got politics and people playing victims for the very disaster they brought about.
Issue that when I was in Senate in the last administration, I was a very serious critic of the way the oil prices were being handled by the government. In fact, I see my clips are going around online because I was very firm that the government must do something. They cannot be just on standby. And I did it on the floor of the Senate. But you should give us credit that no life was lost during that time, during that agitation, that we never organized a protest. We never agitated for Matatu sector to stop transport. In fact, I dare say that the leaders of Matatu industry at that point in time never protested against the government. So the question you should be asking yourself, why did they feel that it was okay to understand President Uhuru Kenyatta, but when it is President William Ruto, they should go to the streets?
The government should be credited for what exactly? Why is this administration acting like it was never part of the previous government? Because the same president we are talking about today was the deputy president back then. And honestly, when Murkomen says Kenyans should ask themselves why people did not protest this way during Uhuru's time.
But you should give us credit that no life was lost during that time, during that agitation, that we never organized a protest. We never agitated for Matatu sector to stop transport. In fact, I dare say that the leaders of Matatu industry at that point in time never protested against the government. So the question you should be asking yourself, why did they feel that it was okay to understand President Uhuru Kenyatta, but when it is President William Ruto, they should go to the streets? You should ask yourself, why did they not stop their vehicles just less than 4 years ago? And why is it that in the administration of President William Ruto, they have stopped their vehicles from coming to the streets? There must be something. There must be a certain level of profiling that applies to William Ruto that does not apply to President Uhuru Kenyatta. And the guess is as good as your guess is as good as mine. If you will give us credit for those who were opposed to the administration that time, you must give us credit for using constitutional means and using the floor of the House and giving alternative suggestions to how to handle the fuel crisis. We never organized one protest, no life was lost, no supermarket was looted.
What exactly is he trying to imply? Because to many Kenyans, that statement sounds less like leadership and more like tribal politics. Almost as if he's suggesting that people stayed silent because Uhuru Kenyatta was Gikuyu, but now that it is William Ruto, protests suddenly become louder. But this is not about tribe, this is about survival. Kenyans are reacting because the economy pressure has become unbearable. So for once, let's put facts on the table. For the last 3 years, fuel prices have skyrocketed to nearly 264 Kenyan shillings. And even more shocking, fuel prices have been adjusted upward twice within less than a month. So naturally, citizens are angry. Because these are the same leaders who were furious when fuel prices reached 150 Kenyan shillings. Back then, they were at the forefront of criticizing government, holding press conference, attacking policies, demanding accountability. Today, the same people want Kenyans to understand the situation. Because if you truly cared about the people the way you claimed before power, then right now you should be turning every stone possible to make sure the matatu sector gets back on the road. You should be at the forefront defending citizens, fighting for solution, showing urgency, not turning an economic crisis into a political scoring contest.
We must reject these attempts to increase the price of petroleum product, because that will increase even the price of electricity and therefore will increase the cost of production.
Yes. This is the issue. Who advises this government? Who are the real advisors? In terms of economics, in terms of finance management, leave alone politics. Politics we can deal with later. But who advises this government?
Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika. Leo hii wawili hao wako ndani ya serikali. Waliokuwa wakosoaji wakubwa sasa wamekabidhiwa majukumu na serikali hiyo hiyo ambayo zamani waliitaka iondoke. Kauli zao kwenye majukwaa ya kisiasa sasa imebadilika ghafla kufuatia ukweli wa kuendesha serikali.
If those two actions were not taken, the price of super petrol would have been too.
But now that power changed hands, suddenly it is no longer about mwananchi. Now it's about giving credit. Now it's about protecting government image. Now it is politics. Back then, they spoke like defenders of the people. They condemned taxation. They condemned expensive fuel. They condemned economic hardship. But today they are defending the same things they once called oppression. And honestly, politics in Kenya is starting to look less like leadership and more like a chess game. And one man is playing the game. Kenyans simply wanted reassurance that somebody is in control. Instead, to many citizens, it feels like leadership disappears whenever the pressure rises. The government came into power, branding itself as the government of hustlers, the government of Mama Mboga, the government of ordinary citizens. But today many Kenyans are asking who is really being protected, because leadership is not tested during celebrations. Leadership is tested during crisis. And right now, citizens are watching carefully, not just the promises, not just the speeches, but the actions. Remember to stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.